Welcome back to another project. In this project, we're going to create a loan calculator. As you can see from the final version of the project, we have three inputs here. The first one is the loan amount. The second one is the interest rate. And the last one is the amount of months that we would like to pay the loan. For example, if you have a $100,000 loan with a 10% interest rate, and if you want to pay this loan for 12 months, we have to pay $9,166.67 per night. So any changes you do, for example, if you change the interest rate to 4% and you press enter, you see the difference here inside the monthly payment. So we're going to firstly, by using HTML, add these inputs. Then we're going to style this project using CSS. And finally, with using JavaScript, we're going to get all these inputs data, and by just adding a formulation, we can calculate the monthly payment and show it inside here in real time. So in the next section, we're going to start with the HTML part of the project. So see you in the next section. All right, let's start our project. I opened the final version of the project as our reference so we can just compare our code with the final version. And let's start firstly create the HTML part of the project. So let me go to my desktop and I open the Visual Studio Code. You can use any text editor that you prefer. Once you open the Visual Studio Code, we close the Get Started tab, and inside the file, we click on the new folder. Here we choose the folder we want to create the project inside it. I want to create the project inside the desktop as usual. So I click on desktop, and here I create a new folder and I call it the same as the name of the project, which is the loan calculator. All right, now we just press enter and we choose the folder that we have created by clicking on the select folder. Here we close the Get Started tab again, and here on the left side, which we call it Explorer, we create the index.html file with the file we need to create the HTML file. So here we can click here on this button, or we can right click and click on the new file. And we call the file, as I mentioned, index.html. And we press enter. On the right side now we have our index.html file, which is completely empty, but we can have an exclamation mark to create an HTML boilerplate. So we can just add exclamation mark. As you can see, we have a auto suggestion from Emmett. Then if you click on this one, the first auto suggestion, we get the HTML boilerplate. So let me explain this real quick because you might be familiar with this, but if you're the beginner and this is your first project, so let me explain it real quick. So the first line here is the doc type, which is defining the version of the HTML. For example, if you're HTML 1, 2, 3, you have to mention here, but for HTML5, you just need to have HTML here. Then the next tag, which is the closing tag, as you can see, we have HTML here and here. This is the tag that is covering all the HTML file, including the head tag and the body tag. And here the lang attribute defines the language of the page. And in our case, from the boilerplate, we got the English. But if you're working on a different language, you can just define your own language here. Then we have the head tag, which includes the metadata tag and also the title of the page. The first metadata tag defines the chart set of the page, and we're using UTF-8. UTF-8 is the standard that contains almost all the characters and symbols, and it is recommended by HTML5. So the HTML5 recommends us to use UTF-8 because, as I mentioned, it contains most of the characters and symbols, so the users won't have any problem seeing the website's characters and symbols. Then we have the next metadata tag, which is the compatibility metadata tag. And this one just tells the Internet Explorer to use the most recent rendering engine, which is Edge, because the Microsoft is not working on the Internet Explorer anymore. Their focus is on the Edge, Microsoft Edge, and they want the Internet Explorer to use the same engine as well. Then we have the viewport metadata tag. It tells the first one, which is content, defines the device's screen to be the width of the screen. For example, if you have a mobile screen, you see the site smaller. If you have a desktop, you see the site bigger. And then we have the initial zoom scale of the browser, which is the 100% here. So if you want the 80% zoom level, for example, here we have 100%, but you can have 80, 90. But the initial value is defined by this attribute. Then we have the title of the page, which just now we have a document. You can see this title inside the browser. So let me open the browser. I'm using the live server extension. And if you click here on go live at the bottom, the browser is going to be open by our HTML file. As you can see, index.html is open here, and the title is document, as we mentioned here. So let me bring the VS Code on the left side and the browser on the right side, so you can see the changes in real time. And the title is now document. Let's change the title to the name of the project, which is Loan Calculator. So we just say Loan Calculator. All right. So now we can see the title is different, Loan Calculator. After that, as you can see from the final version, we have a title and we have 3 inputs, and finally we have monthly payments. Okay. And all of them are inside a container. So we want to have a div first that contains all these things inside it. So inside a body tag, we add a div as a container. We use that div. Then we have a h1 tag, which we want to say loan calculator here. So we just say loan calculator. All right. So you can see the h1 tag here. We are going to style it later using CSS, but for now we're just having the HTML. The next one, we have 3 inputs, and also we have a paragraph here. Okay. So after this h1 tag, we have a paragraph. It just says loan amount. And after that, we just have a $sign. Okay. And inside this paragraph, we have an input. So we just add an input, and the type of the input is number. So I just choose input clone number. We get the auto suggestion. If you click on the auto suggestion, it's going to populate the input with the type of number. The reason we choose number, because we want to only allow the user have number inside this input, nothing else. So if you don't mention type number, they can even put the string or alphabet. Okay. So it doesn't have a name, this input, but the ID is unique here because we want to later detect which input is using. So we have to put the ID for each of the inputs. So the first input, the ID would be, for example, loan dash amount. So let me write loan dash amount. Okay. And we also have a minimum and maximum amount. So the minimum for this one, would be 1, and we also have a maximum. We just say, for example, $500,000, for example. You can choose anything you like. And also we have a value. So we want to have a default value. For example, in the final version, the default value is 10,000 for the loan amount. For the interest rate is 10, and for the months to pay is 12. So here we just choose a value here. Okay. And the value for this one is, for example, we just say $10,000 because we want this initial value between 10,000. The other inputs are very similar to the first one. So we can just copy this paragraph using Alt-Shift-Arrow down 2 times, and we're going to fill the other inputs and change them here. So the title for the next input would be, for example, interest rate. So we just say interest rate, and we just add the percentage here. The mean value for this is different. We just set it to be 0, and also we want the maximum to be 100%. So just it's no interest rate is 100%, but just in case we just put like this. And the value for this one, we just say 10% interest rate. All right. And also for changing the value, as you can see, when we change this one, 1 by 1 goes up. we don't want this interest rate to be changed one by one. The step will be 1. We can change the step here. And the step for this one, we just want to set it to be 0.1. So it's going to be changed like this. Okay. And finally, the last input is just months to pay. So let me write down here, months to pay. And so the type is number. Also, we didn't change the ID for this one. I forgot to change it. So be sure to change this one to interest rate. So interest dash rate. And for this one, the ID is months. So this one should be months to pay. And the ID is months dash to dash pay. Okay, these are the unique IDs that we can track later, the inputs they changed in the inputs. And also the minimum and maximum for the months to pay. For example, the minimum we just say 6 months and the maximum, for example, 48 months. And the value for this input, for example, we set it to be 12. Okay, so we've done with the input parts, and the last part is just a paragraph here saying monthly payment. So here we just add a paragraph and we just say monthly payment. Okay, and we add a colon here. So that was it for the HTML part of the projects. So in the next section, we're going to use CSS to style the projects. So see you in the next section. All right, in the last section, we have completed the HTML part of the project. In this section, we're going to style the projects using CSS. As you can see from the final version, the container is in the middle of the screen, and also the input is occupying the whole space of the container. So we just need to bring them in the center and also style them with CSS. So first thing first, we need to create the CSS file. So we can open the Explorer section using Ctrl-Shift-E, and here we just create a file, and we just name the file style.css, and we press enter. In order to use the CSS file, we need to go to the index.html and we add a link to this CSS file. So we go to index.html. Just after the title, we add a link tag. We just write link, and in the auto suggestions, we click on the one with the CSS. So this is going to make a link between the HTML and the CSS file. As you can see, the relationship is the style sheet, and the destination of the file is style.css because they are both on the same directory. So we don't need to add anything else. We just need to add the name of the style.css. Now we can use the style.css inside the our project. So we close the Explore section so we have more space. And also we want to add more things here, for example, classes and other things. Because we want to target these elements, for example, this paragraph or input, we need to know, we need to add a class to them to target them inside the style.css. So for each of the inputs, I'm going to add a class with the name of input. So I'm going to add them together using the dual cursor. So I just keep the Alt and choose the other input as well. And we just can write class for all of them. And we press enter, and inside the class, we just put the, we just say inputs. So we can now target this input, all of them using this class. And also for this div, I want to have a class and we just call it container. Okay. And also for this monthly payment paragraph, I want to just add a class and I call it payment. All right. So now we can just target them easily inside the style.css. So inside the style.css, first thing first, we're going to style the body section. So we just write here body, and we open this set of curly braces. The first thing I want to do, I want to remove the space between the text, this container, and the wall of the browser. So we can simply do that using just adding the padding 0 and also margin 0. So this is going to remove the space around us, so we can simply style them now. And then we want to add the height and display flex. So we want to change the display to flex because we want to bring the container to the center. So we need to change the display from block to flex. And also we have to set the height for it because we want to bring them to the center vertically. So we need to have a height of 100%. So the CSS knows that bringing to the center is just bringing in the middle of the 100% of the height. So we set the height to be 100% of the viewport height. So whatever view we have, we set the 100% of it. And now we can bring this container to the center. First thing, we want to bring it horizontally using justify content center. As you can see, it came to the center horizontally. For bring it to the center vertically, we can use align items center. So this is possible because we have used the height 100% viewport height. Otherwise, we couldn't reach that. And also, I wanted to change the font family to Courier New Courier Monospace. So this is kind of a cool font. So that's it for the body section. Now we want to target this div that is containing all of them. So this is a div with a class of container. So we can simply target that using dot container. All right, and we add a set of curly braces. So the things we want to do, we want to change the background color to be similar to the final version, which is kind of green color. And we just need to say background or background color. We just change it to dark cyan, this color. And I want the text to be white. These texts, I want them to be white to be easier to be read. So we just change the color to be Alice blue, which is kind of white, but it's not completely white. And we add a padding. We want to add a space around the text. So add a padding, 20 pixels. And also I want these borders to be rounded. So we can simply achieve that using border radius 10 pixels. Okay. So now we have completed the container. Let's install these inputs. So we know that the inputs, they have the class of input. So we can target them using dot input. Okay. And I want to change the width to be 100% firstly. So they're going to cover all the space. And also we can change the font size to make the size of the font bigger, and I'll set it to be 20 pixels. And also we want to change the height. So we want to have a bigger height, and it's set to be 30 pixels. Okay, that looks fine. Let's just install this paragraph here. We have added a class with the name of payments here. So we can target that using dot payment. And the things I want to do is just change the font weight to be 600 to make it a little bit thicker like this. And also make it a little bit larger using font size to be 20 pixels. Okay, I think it looks fine. So that was it for the CSS part of the project. In the next section, we're going to add functionality and calculate the loan using JavaScript. So see you in the next section for the JavaScript part of the project. All right, in the last section, we have completed the CSS part of the project. In this section, we are going to add more functionality to the website using JavaScript. So we want to calculate, firstly, the interest of the loan. And also after that, we want to calculate the monthly payment. And we want to replace this one with the one is calculated. And we just say monthly payment, for example, $1,000 per month or what, similar to this one. The first things we need to do is just get these numbers from these forms. And we track the changes here. So the first step is to create the JS file, the JavaScript file. So we need to open the Explorer section using Ctrl-Shift-E. And here on the left side, we can create a new file and we call it index.js. Similar to the one we have done for the CSS, we need to add a link to the HTML file for the JavaScript file as well. So here, but the JavaScript file, the link should be at the end. The CSS is at the beginning, but the JavaScript is at the end. The reason is we want the page is completely loaded, and then we get the data and bring it to the JavaScript and calculate it inside the JavaScript. Otherwise, we don't have access to the website anymore. So you should always put the link of the JavaScript at the end of the body section. In order to do that, we need to just add a script tag. We just write SC and we can get this auto suggestion saying script :src. So the src, which is the destination of the link, as the both files are located at the same directory, is just index.js. Now we can use the JavaScript file inside the project. So we can close this section. And the things we want to do is track the changes inside the input. Okay, we can bring all of them inside the JavaScript. The other way that is easier is to add an onChange event listener inside the input section that is going to call a function inside this file. So we have 3 inputs. So let me choose all of them by using Alt, keeping the Alt and clicking. So we need to add an onChange event listener. The onChange event listener. So let me, I was typing here as well. So let me choose it again. So here, and here. Okay. So I write down onChange and I get this suggestion onChange. I click, I press enter. This onChange is going to trigger a function. So we need to put the function. So we just call the function calculate loan, for example. Anything you can put. Just we open and close a parenthesis. The reason we put the parenthesis is we want to call the function. If you don't put the parenthesis, it's not going to call the function. Okay. So we need to now create this function inside the index.js file. All right. So we go to index.js and we create the function here. So we just create a function. We can click here on the function statement in the auto suggestion. The name of the function is calculate loan, and it doesn't have any parameters. So each time we just change this form, we're going to call this function. Let's try it. For example, we console log, we just say change, and let's open the let's use Ctrl+Shift+C to open the console here. So we click here on the console, and each time we change the input, we just have to call the function, which is console logging change. You see, each of them is calling the function because all these inputs, they have the onChange on that. All right. So instead of console logging here, we're going to, so let me delete this console log. So we're going to get the value of these inputs. We want to get the values and we want to calculate the interest and monthly payment from these values. So for example, we want to get the first value. For example, we want to get this loan amount value. The things we need to do is just say loan amount value. This is just the name. And this name is equal to document. We want to target the document. Document is all the website. So we just use get element by ID, which is a method from JavaScript that is going to get the ID. For example, the ID of the first input is loan amount. So we can copy this one and just inside a parenthesis and a double quote, we can put the loan amount. And we can target inside this using the target the value. So because we want to get the value of that. All right. So now if we, let me fix this. If we console log now the loan amount value, and here if you open the console, if you open the console using F12, for example, let me bring it down. So now the console is open here. We open the console here. Now if you change this loan amount, for example, it's now 10,000. If you make it 10,001, you can see the 10,001 here. So we are getting this amount and console logging it by just calling it here. Okay, any amount we write down here, for example, 300, we see here. Okay, similar to the one we have done for the loan amount value, we can do for the interest rate, months to pay, and other things as well. So let's do it here. Let's delete the console log, and we just get the interest rate value. This is similar. We just target the document and we use the get element by ID method. And this is inside, it should be the ID of that input. The ID of the input of this second input is interest dash rate. So we can copy it and paste it here. And we can target the value here. We're just saying dot value. Let's do it for the months to pay as well. So we just say months to pay value. And this is going to be equal to document dot get element by ID. And inside the parentheses, we just put the ID of the next input, which is months dash to dash pay. And we put it inside a double quote. And we target the value like this. Now we have the value of all the inputs. Now we can calculate the interest. In order to calculate the interest, let me just make another constant and we call it interest. So interest is equal to this is the way we calculate interest. We just have to have loan amount value, and this is going to be multiplied by the interest value, the interest rate value, multiplied by 0.01, which is converting the interest rate to percent, because this is just in 10. But by multiplying to 0.01, we're going to convert it to percent. Then all of them is going to be over or divided by months to pay value. Okay, now we have the amount of interest. Now we can calculate the monthly payments. So the monthly payment, we just write down monthly payment is going to be equal to, we add a parenthesis, we just say loan amount value over months to pay value plus the interest that we have calculated here. So we just say interest. Okay, this is the way we calculate the monthly payment. So this is not related to JavaScript. This is just a formulation the accountant used to calculate the monthly payment. But the way we calculate and write down the formulation is like this inside the JavaScript. Now we want to put this amount inside here. Okay, so first thing first, we need to get this. We have it here, a paragraph saying monthly payment, but it doesn't have an ID. We can target it by the class, but the simpler way is to add an ID here, and we just call it payment. And inside the index.js, we can change the HTML inside this paragraph by just saying, we just target the document. We get that element by using the get element by ID, and the ID was payment. And we want to change inside this element. We want to change the inner HTML of this place. Okay, so .html inner HTML should be equal, and because it's dynamic, we want to put the monthly payment inside, and monthly payment is a variable. We need to add a backtick here. Backtick is located over tab T. It's different from the normal quote. So some students they make this mistake. So this is a different things. So you add a backtick, and inside the backtick, we just write down monthly payment, and this is going to be equal to this monthly payment. But because this is dynamic, we need to put it as a variable. So it should be inside a dollar and a curly braces. And now we can copy this monthly payment and put it here. Okay. Now, whatever we have changed here, for example, we make this is 10,000. We make it 10,001. This is going to calculate the monthly payment. All right. This one too. But as you can see, sometimes these digits are too long. We don't need actually this kind of digits. We can just round this one or just keep these two digits. The simplest way is just add to this monthly payment. We just add a toFixed method from JavaScript. We just say .toFixed, and we want to fix it to 2 digits. So we just say 2 here. Okay. Now, if we change this one, you see that we have only 2 digits here. Okay. Now, anything you type, you can just see the monthly payment dynamically. So we can easily calculate any loan amount using this website. That was it for our project. And that was for the JavaScript part. I hope you enjoyed and learned many things. See you in the next project.